for the inter-county referee. So I would have played underage football with Mitchels and played a bit up to junior level, and then I was in Galway with college, and at the time in Galway they were looking for new referees and I wasn't really making the first team, so I really liked Gaelic football and wanted to stay involved, and so I did a beginner referees course and I started off refereeing underage games in Galway and really enjoyed it, and then I was progressed up to an intermediate county final out of it, which was brilliant, and then I was lucky enough to be asked to go onto the inter-county panel, and that was fantastic. So that's how I progressed on then through the years.
Well, I played junior football originally. That was the height of my football prowess. But when I came to Castlebar, and because my son was involved in Mitchels, I became one of the coaches with the underage teams. But a frustration I had was watching games and wondering why referees were calling and making certain decisions. So I enrolled in a referees course, little knowing that once I had done that, my name would be included on a list of certified referees as such, and got asked to do one game, then another, and then another. And after a while, I just eventually found I was in this referee system and doing matches. And from that, I've diversified since to doing a lot of ladies' games, which are very competitive. And I also do a number of hurling games and the 𝐓𝐄𝐈𝐑𝐈 game as well.
Yeah, refereeing is actually very enjoyable. The initial impression people always say to your reaction is, geez, why'd you do it? What possesses you? But 99% of the time, very enjoyable. Lads get on with it. You get to see different parts of the county and country you'd never get to. You meet some wonderful people. You've great memories. You know, you're involved in great games, and you know, I'm very lucky. I have 4 brilliant umpires. They've been everywhere with me, so that really makes it. And yeah, as one of our mentors would say, you know, you can go looking for trouble too. It's as hard as you make it. So no, I think having played the game, I can read it that bit better and know how to adjudicate if it's a deliberate foul or accidental. And like I say, on the whole, really enjoy it, and would encourage people to really consider taking up refereeing to stay involved in the game.
Yeah, I would encourage people to become a referee. There should be referees from every club, and unfortunately all the clubs in Mayo don't have referees. Some clubs are lucky that they have more than one referee. Mitchels have 3 referees, the likes of iteoirí have 3, maybe 4 referees, but some clubs have no referees at all. And I think a club is missing out on something if they don't have a referee, because they can pass on the information to their club and make sure that the clubs are up to speed on rule changes, as you mentioned earlier on. The other good thing about being a referee is you got to keep fit to a certain level, depending on what level you're operating at. So if you're doing an important match at the weekend, you're not going to be going out on the tear before it. So it does keeps you in a fit regime as such.
Yeah, like the game now, especially with Championship coming, it's at least 7 match officials. So if you're referee, you have your 2 linesmen and the 4 umpires. And yeah, like that, when you're refereeing, you can be in the zone and focusing on what's ahead of you. So to be honest, a lot of the external noise blends in. But I know from doing linesman, that is far lonelier. You're a lot more isolated. You're hearing everything. Some people then can be very unforgiving in what they say and very uncompromising. You've management too that can, like that, lose the run of themselves, and supporters and subs. But again, thankfully that's on the rare side, and you know, I think it's great that recently enough they've brought in the yellow and red card for match officials too, and mentors. So again, like everything, you try and speak with them and reason. But if they push you, you know, you have the option now of calling in a referee and advising what was said and happened, and then they can issue like that a yellow or red card as needs be. Same with the match umpires. Like I say, I know I wouldn't be where I am for only I have 4 brilliant umpires, and some others have helped me along the way when the lads weren't available. But like that, they too can be subject to abuse. So you know, they know, and any person that's linesman with me, I tell them to report it. We don't tolerate it. 0 tolerance. And yeah, again, they want to be there enjoying. They're all volunteers. They're there to just contribute to a good game and adjudicate. So yeah, just ask people to be a bit more lenient and understanding of the job of an umpire or a linesperson.
Well, I know I'll be involved in the championship matches at the weekend, and there's one particular match on Sunday where I'm going to be doing the line. And the problem is, if things aren't going according to plan for one team or the other, the spectators are going to be making certain comments, and because you're a linesman on the side or you're an umpire near the crowd, you're going to be getting remarks to you, and people are going to question, why aren't you telling the referee what to do? Whereas the referee is in the middle of the pitch. They're the ones who are closest to the play all the time and making their decisions. Now you have the option, if you do see something that's off the ball, of raising the flag and bringing it to the referee's attention. But if the referee is keeping up with the play, they see what's going on, you can't be waving at the referee to influence his decision, because it is their decision in the first place.
Yes, you know, and it's interesting, like even going to some coaching events and you speak to new coaches and those that are experienced, and we ask them, you know, what frustrates you about refereeing, and they'll mention something they perceive as a rule, and you're able to show them that's not a rule, or that's long gone. So some people have it in their heads. Yeah, and then there's some of the more recently introduced ones. Like it's amazing how some people still don't understand that for a mark, ref blows the whistle. It's up to the player if they want to take it or not. All the referee is doing is indicating to the player you're entitled to take one. Things like if the player does want to take the mark, they have up to 15 seconds to decide what to do.
Yeah, I mean, the prime example I would give of that was when the Mitchels ladies got through to the intermediate Ireland final last year, and the club management had asked me as a run-up to that to do a couple of training sessions with them and just to do a questions and answers session with them to clarify any rules. And it was amazing, even for players who had played for quite a period of time, that they weren't fully clear on certain rules in the game. And they did say it made a difference to them, and that they were able to give away less frees, for example. Well, I do know we had a meeting with all the Mayo referees last week in advance of the championship starting this weekend. I think there was over 51 referees, I think, attended the course. And we had a full presentation on that from Croke Park officials to go over rules again. And what they had told us was they had already had a meeting with club managers. So if there's any rule change involved, the club manager should be aware of it, and really it's to get your managers to pass it on to your players, so at least the players would know. I don't know how you're going to tell your spectators or whatever, unless it's done through maybe club websites or something like that. But a lot of the time it only gets out through the media that there are particular changes, such as black cards, yellow cards, sin bin, all that sort of thing, that people aren't aware of, and just takes the time for it to bed in as such.
A lot of clubs in Mayo are lucky to have club referees. Why not invite them in to talk to the teams, or even just to management, and go through the rules, or, you know, how to use the rules to their advantage, and how to frustrate an opponent legally.
Yeah, I was doing an underage ladies game recently, and there was one team was taking the line ball, and I was shouting from the sideline, shouting from the spectators that the player had gone over the sideline. So I just let a brief remark to say different rules, different game, and kept going, even though there continued to be shouts after it. But the person who made the comment, I met him a couple of weeks later at a league final in Bacon, in Ballyhonus, and they came up to me after the game to say they just wanted a quick word of me. And usually a quick word isn't always a good word, but in this case it was a very good word, because they said when they went back after the match and I made that comment about the sideline ball, they found that the decision I had made was fully in line with the rules, and they wanted to apologise. So I accepted that and said fair play to you for doing that.
Yeah, there'd be a few. Again, I've been lucky. I remember there was a wonderful intermediate final here once between Kiltane and Kilmaine. Fantastic occasion. Two teams played ball. It was end-to-end stuff. Fabulous atmosphere. Really, really electric crowd. We were lucky to do an All-Ireland minor final there as well a few years ago. That was a brilliant occasion between Jerry and Kerry. Again, two teams going at it. Easy to do. It was more a timekeeping exercise. It was that the lads were that sporting. The Munster final this year was a brilliant one as well. First time doing a provincial final, and again delighted for the umpires, because again they've been through all sorts of weather and road conditions and the whole lot. So it's nice to see them rewarded with the days out. And we've done games in Croke Park, and they're always never had a bad day out there. It's again the atmosphere. It's where every player wants to be, an official. So yeah, we've been lucky to get those occasions.
I suppose there's good story. Every referee will have good stories and bad stories, and I'm glad to say that I have less bad stories than good stories. So when people ask me about being a referee and what's the worst things about it, I say, well, look, every game is different, and you are, as the saying goes, you're only as good as your last game. and I consider myself to have had a good game if there's no comments about me when I'm coming off the pitch. But I'd say my proudest moment as a referee was actually doing an under-21 hurling match here in McHale Park a couple of years ago. And I was doing it and had, as well as my usual umpires, I had a couple of members of my family doing the umpire duty as well, one of which was my daughters as well. And I remember somebody on one of the teams making a comment that it was the first time they'd seen a female umpire, and I do think it's probably something that should happen a bit more often with the growth of the ladies' game. There's no reason why women should be more involved in the men's as well.
Yeah, go out, look, we understand you've been training hard for months between the winter training, your league, getting ready. So have referees. You know, we've had in-services. We've one actually tomorrow night again, keeping us on our toes and looking back and watch sharp. So, yeah, go out, play fair, go for it. But again, you know, any referee doesn't mind a reasonable question. I think we're very approachable. I have no problem. I actually prefer a player comes up and asks, of course, civilly, what was that for? I'll explain any decision I made. They mightn't agree with it, but I'll certainly give a logic to it. And that's all I say. If you ask in a courteous manner, you'll be treated also with courtesy and respect. And, you know, who's to say you won't get the benefit of the doubt? And same with a manager. But the person that's giving you the hairdryer or being abusive, you know, don't be surprised when it's brought up 13 metres if you're showing a yellow or black or red card. You know, just it's on you. The onus is on them as a player too to remain disciplined. But look, go out and enjoy it. And like I say, talk with the match officials, work with them, not against them, and you know, you'll enjoy the game all the more.
Well, I suppose it's difficult for management and supporters with the heat of passion that's going on in championship games to sort of think clearly, because you're only looking at your own club as such. But if they could maybe take a half breath, wait to see why the referee is making the decision in the first place, because usually what will happen is that there will be clarity on it and the referee will signal clearly why the decision was made for a free or a foul or a card or whatever reason, and not just jump to conclusions and start screaming, especially not screaming at the linesmen or the umpires that's nearest to them as well.